Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. We are back at it, continuing our journey through these knowledge cards.
Great to be here.
If you're just joining us, think of these cards as a sort of toolkit. We're not just reading articles, we're trying to build a new way of seeing the world, one idea at a time. It's great to have you with us.
It is. And, I really like that toolkit analogy because these concepts aren't just trivia. They're lenses.
Yeah.
And once you put them on, the world really does look different. Today's lens is, well, it's a powerful one.
It really is. But before we get ahead of ourselves and reveal today's topic, we have to look back for just a second. Make sure our foundation is solid.
Right.
In our last deep dive, we talked about inversion. We learned how to avoid mistakes, but what propels us forward?
That is the perfect question. That's exactly the launch pad for today. We're pulling out card number 2. We're calling this one the Incentive Superpower.
The Incentive Superpower. Okay, I have to be honest. When I hear the word incentive, my eyes, they glaze over a little bit. It sounds so corporate, like a boring HR meeting about a holiday bonus. Are we really dedicating a whole deep dive to bonuses?
Oh, I get that reaction. I do. But we aren't talking about a $50 gift card for Employee of the Month. We're talking about the fundamental engine of human behavior.
Okay.
And to give this some real weight, we're drawing from The Psychology of Human Misjudgment, which was a famous speech given by Charlie Munger at Harvard way back in 1995.
All right, so we've got Charlie Munger, one of the greatest investors of all time, definitely not an HR manager.
Far from it. And to really get why this card is so critical, we have to start with his central thesis. If you take nothing else away from this deep dive, take this. Incentives are to behavior what gravity is to physics.
Okay, let's pause right there. That's a massive claim. Incentives are like gravity.
It is.
I mean, that implies it's a law of nature. But gravity is physics. I can't choose to defy gravity. If I jump, I fall. Are you saying I can't choose my own behavior?
Yeah.
That I'm just a robot following an incentive?
Well, it's a provocative comparison, isn't it? But think about gravity. It's invisible.
Yeah.
You can't see it holding you to your chair right now, but it's always there. It's constant.
Right.
And, most importantly, it acts on you whether you agree with it or not.
Gravity doesn't care if I'm a good person or a bad person.
Exactly. And Munger's point is that incentives work the exact same way on populations of people. We like to think we're these, autonomous beings making choices based on our soul or our morals. But Munger argues that more often than not, if you look at the data, people are just objects moving in the direction that the incentives are pulling them.
So if I see someone acting in a way that seems crazy or, just annoying, you're saying I shouldn't look at their personality first. I shouldn't just assume they're a jerk.
No, you should look for the gravity. Look for the hidden incentive. Usually, what looks like crazy behavior is actually perfectly rational behavior if you understand what that person is being rewarded for.
This brings us to the core logic, then. In the source material, Munger drops a line that's, well, it's incredibly aggressive. He says, never, ever think about something else when you should be thinking about the power of incentives.
Never, ever. He's not a man who minces words.
But isn't that a bit cynical? To say that everything is just incentives, it feels like we're reducing human beings to, coin-operated machines. What about duty? Honor? What about just doing the right thing because it's the right thing?
That's the pushback. That's what everyone feels at first. We want to believe in the better angels of our nature. Of course, people do selfless things. But Munger is talking about systems.
Okay.
When things go wrong in a company or a government, our default is to look at the people. We say, that guy is lazy or that CEO is greedy. We judge their character.
We moralize. We think the solution is to lecture them. Hey, be better. Do your job.
Correct. And Munger's insight, the deep dive here, is that moralizing is usually a complete waste of energy. Moralizing doesn't work. Fixing the incentive does.
Well, you can't lecture water into flowing uphill.
Exactly. If the incentive structure is flawed, the behavior will be flawed. Period.
I want to really nail this down because I think we've all been in a situation where we're frustrated with someone and we just think they're incompetent, but you're saying it's a math problem, not a people problem.
Let me give you a simple example.
Uh-huh.
Imagine you manage a sales team. You give them a big speech about customer satisfaction. You say, we want happy clients, long-term relationships.
Okay, that's the moral instruction. Do the right thing.
But let's say your compensation plan. The gravity pays them a bonus only based on the volume of units sold today. It doesn't track satisfaction at all.
Oh.
And if they don't sell 50 units, they don't get paid their bonus.
Well, in that case, the speech goes in one ear and out the other. They're going to sell as many units as possible. They'll probably be pushy, overpromise.
Right.
Annoy the customers, definitely.
Exactly. And if you, as the manager, get angry and say, "Why are you being so aggressive? I told you to care about satisfaction," you're ignoring the gravity. You are paying them to be pushy. The behavior follows the money, not the speech.
It's almost like entrapment. You're setting them up to fail the moral test because the survival test demands they act differently.
That is the deep dive insight. Bad behavior isn't always about bad people. Often, it's just about bad rules, bad design. And if you want to fix the behavior, you have to stop preaching and start redesigning the game.
Okay, I'm starting to buy into this. But abstract examples are one thing. To really cement this, we need a real-world case. And the source material has a classic one, the story of FedEx in its early days.
This is a legendary story. It's often taught in business schools as the ultimate example of something called the principal-agent problem.
Okay, don't use fancy terms on me unless you're going to explain them. What's the principal-agent problem?
It's simple, really. The principal is the owner, in this case, FedEx. They want packages delivered on time. The agent is the worker. They want to get paid. The problem happens when what the worker wants conflicts with what the owner wants.
All right, so set the scene. FedEx is a young company. What's the crisis?
The crisis is existential. Their entire brand promise is overnight delivery. If it doesn't get there overnight, the company fails. But they had this huge bottleneck at their central hub.
This is where all the planes fly in at night, right? To sort everything.
Exactly. Middle of the night. Planes land, workers unload thousands of packages, sort them, reload them. It's high pressure, it's physical, it's cold, and the clock is just ticking.
And the problem was, they were just too slow.
Consistently too slow. The planes were sitting on the tarmac waiting. Delays were piling up. Customers were angry. The company was bleeding money.
So put yourself in the shoes of FedEx management. You look down at the warehouse floor. You see guys moving slow, taking breaks. What's your first instinct?
The natural instinct, the moralizing one, is to think, these workers are lazy. Or, we hired the wrong people. We need to fire them and get hard workers.
Right. Or maybe we need to go down there and yell at them, give a motivational speech.
Work harder. Exactly. But they tried that. They tried more supervision. They tried speeches. Nothing worked. The planes were still late.
So let's look at the gravity. How are these workers being paid?
The source notes they were paid by the hour.
By the hour. Okay. Let's stop and think like a worker for a second. Let's run the simulation. It's 2 a.m. I've got a mountain of boxes. I am paid, let's say, $10 an hour.
Right. So if you work incredibly fast, like a superhero, and you finish all the work in 4 hours, what happens?
I clock out. I get paid for 4 hours, so $40.
And if you work at a moderate pace, take a coffee break, stretch your legs, and it takes you 8 hours.
I get paid for 8 hours. I make $80. I make double the money.
Precisely. The incentive structure was actually punishing efficiency. If you worked fast, you essentially took a pay cut. The gravity was pulling them to be slow. It wasn't that they were lazy, it was that they were rational.
That is such a perverse incentive. The company says we want speed, but the contract says we pay for time.
Yes. The worker is selling hours. So logically, they want to sell as many hours as they can.
So how did FedEx fix it? This is the best part. They didn't fire the lazy workers. They didn't bring in a motivational speaker.
Nope. They just changed the math. They realized that paying for time's the problem. So they shifted the pay structure from being paid by the hour to being paid by the shift.
Let's unpack that. It sounds subtle, but it changes everything. What does paying by the shift actually mean?
It means the manager comes in and says, look, here's the pile of packages. We have to load these planes. We will pay you a fixed amount, let's say $100 for this task. Whether it takes you 4 hours or 8 hours, the check is for $100.
Okay, so now I'm that same worker. I know I'm getting my $100 no matter what. If I drag my feet and take 8 hours, I make my money, but I'm stuck at the airport until sunrise.
But if you work incredibly fast, help your buddies out, organize things, and you finish in 4 hours,
I still get the $100, but I get to go home 4 hours early. I get to sleep.
Exactly. The new incentive became finish fast, go home early. And suddenly, the worker's interest going home was perfectly aligned with the company's interest planes leaving on time.
And the result?
The bottleneck vanished. Overnight.
Yeah.
Literally overnight. The same workers, who management thought were lazy and incompetent, suddenly became the fastest logistics team on the planet.
That is incredible. It really proves Munger's point. It wasn't a people problem. It was never a people problem. It was an incentive problem.
And notice how elegant the solution is. It didn't cost the company more money. In fact, it saved them millions. It made the workers happier, Everybody won. But it only happened because someone stopped moralizing and looked at the incentives.
It makes you look at every delay in your own workplace differently. You start wondering, wait, are we paying people to be slow? Are we rewarding the wrong things?
You definitely should. But we can take this concept and apply it to something even more personal. The source material transitions here from corporate logistics to personal finance.
Yes, and this is where it gets really practical for everyone listening. We might not run a logistics hub, but we all deal with money. And we usually have to deal with people who want to help us manage that money.
We do. And the financial industry is a minefield of incentives.
We're going to talk about something called the zero commission filter.
Right. This is a tool you can use to protect yourself.
Okay, so the scenario is this. You're sitting across from a financial advisor, nice suit, nice office, and they're pitching you an investment.
And it's usually a complex one. Maybe a whole life insurance policy or some specialized mutual fund, something that sounds very sophisticated.
They have the charts, the graphs. They're telling you why this is the perfect thing for your portfolio. But you have that nagging doubt. You're thinking, is this actually good for me? Or is it just good for them?
This is where you have to apply the filter. You have to ignore the sales pitch, ignore the graph, and look for the invisible gravity. The source suggests asking two very specific questions.
Okay, what's question number one?
Question one is, does this advisor get a huge upfront commission for selling me this specific product?
And if the answer is yes...
If the answer is yes, you've found the gravity, the advisor has a massive financial incentive to sell you this thing. Even if they're a nice person, their judgment is clouded, they're being pulled by that $5,000 commission check.
Okay, but here's the tricky part. They might say, well, of course I get paid. I provide a service. How do we know if it's actually bad advice?
That brings us to question number two. You have to compare it to the alternative. You ask, does this advisor get paid if I buy VOO?
Okay, stop. For our listeners who might not be stock market junkies, let's clarify VOO. We're not giving investment advice, but what does that symbol represent here?
VOO is just the ticker for a standard S&P 500 index fund. Think of it as a basket that holds the 500 biggest companies in America. It's very simple, very low cost, and historically, it outperforms most of those complex products.
So it's the boring but effective option.
Exactly. It's the baseline. But here's the catch. Because it's so cheap, the fees are almost zero. There's no money left over to pay a sales commission.
Ah, I see where this is going. So if I walk into the broker's office and say, I just want to buy the index fund, what happens to his paycheck?
He makes zero, or close to it, no commission.
So look at the situation now. On one hand, he has the complex product that pays him a month's salary. On the other, the simple product that pays him nothing. Which one is he going to recommend?
He's going to recommend the complex one. Every single time. The gravity pulls him there. He will find very sophisticated sounding reasons why the index fund is too risky or not tailored to your needs.
He has to. His livelihood depends on it.
And that is why the source is so blunt. The conclusion is, if the incentives are that misaligned, the advice is pollution.
Pollution? That's a strong word. It suggests it's toxic, dirty.
It is the right word. It means the advice is contaminated. It isn't pure advice designed to help you. It's sales talk designed to help them. The zero commission filter teaches us to just ignore it. You don't need to be a math genius. You just need to see the incentive. If they only win when you buy the expensive thing, walk away.
And this goes right back to the start. It isn't that the financial advisor is an evil person. They have rent to pay, kids to feed. The incentive structure of their job requires them to sell these products.
Yes, they're rational actors, just like the FedEx workers.
Oh.
But you, as the listener, you need to be rational too. You need to protect your own interests by spotting that invisible force.
So whether we're talking about loading packages onto a plane at 3 a.m. or managing our life savings, the rule holds. Incentives drive behavior.
They absolutely do. And once you start seeing the world through this lens, a lot of confusing things start to make a whole lot of sense.
It really changes how you look at the news, doesn't it? It makes you a bit of a detective.
Completely. Why do politicians vote for certain bills? Don't listen to their speeches. Look at their incentives votes and campaign funding. Why does the healthcare system prioritize treatment over prevention? Look at who gets paid.
It really is a superpower. It lets you predict what people will do, often better than they can predict it themselves.
It allows you to stop being frustrated by irrational behavior and start seeing the hidden rationality behind it.
So let's summarize what we've unpacked today. We started with the idea that incentives are like gravity, an invisible, constant force you can't fight.
We discussed Munger's iron rule. Never think about anything else until you've thought about incentives. And we learned that moralizing, telling people to be good, is ineffective compared to fixing the structure.
We saw that with FedEx. When they paid by the hour, they got slow work. When they paid by the shift, they got fast work. The incentive changed, and the result changed instantly.
And finally, we applied the zero commission filter. We learned to protect ourselves from bad advice by asking who gets paid and how. If the incentives are misaligned, the advice is pollution.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about, a little homework.
Right. I want you to look around your life today. Look for a frustration. Maybe it's a conflict with a colleague, a disagreement with your spouse about chores, anything.
And ask yourself, is this actually a people problem? Is this person just being difficult? Or is there a hidden incentive problem?
Is there an invisible gravity pulling them to act that way? Are you maybe inadvertently rewarding the very behavior you hate? If you can find the incentive, you might just find the solution.
That's a great perspective shift. Instead of getting angry, get curious.
Exactly.
Well, that brings us to the end of our second deep dive. We've covered inversion, now incentives. We're building a powerful framework here.
We are. But these models don't exist in isolation. They work best when you combine them.
Incentives drive individuals, but to see the big picture, we need a framework of many models. That is coming up in episode 3.
I can't wait.
Thanks for listening, and we will see you then.